big guy, like the big dude, yeah, of the Black Order, and he has what looks like a piece of reddy, goldy cloth hanging. So it's in Captain Marvel's colours. So, here I'm going to geek out now. So, in my way is, how's he got hold of that? One, how's he got hold of it? Has he already fought her in another universe or another parallel, it's something before? Is this something Strange has saw? And maybe this is something that he noticed, and that's why he's had to make all this happen. And maybe that's why it's there. Also, this would also, like, have they been fighting in another dimension or something? Or has she been wounded this whole time because he's fought her and she's away somewhere sorting herself out for some reason? And that's why she didn't turn up and help him in the first place. It opens a lot of... Really good.
It's
really
a good spot.
There. Really good spot.
Good spot by that
Well
person.
done.
So yeah, no, lots to think about there. That's pretty much it for the Marvel stuff now. There will be a few bits of... If we get news, then we'll obviously mention Marvel. We can't just go on, unfortunately, we can't just talk about Marvel every day, every week, especially now Hannah's now got H has got the Infinity Gauntlet comic book, so she's now even more on that, but okay. And there was one last comment that we got sent, which was the answer to the question of what song that was in Infinity War, and do we have the answer?
We do. It is Rubber Band Man.
By the Spinners?
By the Spinners.
Which I think you told me a lovely bit of trivia about that.
Yeah, so a bit of trivia. When this was recorded, it was actually on... So it was written and wrote on the back of a chant that they were taking the mick out of one of the singers, and it was actually called The Fat Man. So they used to sing this, and then it became the Rubber Band Man, but it's actually like a fat chant song and a bit of banter, which I feel, isn't that quite funny, the fact that it's being sung and Quill's the main focus of when it's closed up and he's singing it, and all the way through the Guardians they take the mick out of his weight.
Yeah, that's quite
what
funny.
Was it? A sandwich
You're a sandwich away from being fat. That's a very good line.
So maybe that's a little bit of a pop boost there.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your comments. Give us some more in. There's more. Sorry.
No, that's everything.
Oh, there isn't more.
That's
okay. It. Thank you for your comments. We will now be going on to our favourite part of the show. This is Hate Shoots, and this week, in line with the very, very scary but confusing film that we've just watched and reviewed, what is it this week?
It is today. We are running with Fear and Phobias.
Fear and Phobias.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sounds scary.
It is scary. So, you know what I'm frightened of. What am I frightened of, Dan?
Spiders.
Yeah.
Clowns.
Definitely.
Moths. You don't like moths?
I don't even like moths. No.
What else are you scared of? That's about it, really.
I think that's enough.
Snakes?
Yeah, I won't pick one up, but I won't...
I want a snake, and Hale should let me have one.
No, it frightens me. You might I have to start calling you Tom Riddle.
Okay. Harry Potter reference.
Thanks. Probably wouldn't know that. So we're going on phobias today. So I did a bit of research, especially because, really strangely, I've always been frightened of spiders. When I was a kid, it was like really ridiculous to the point where it made me freeze, where it was so scary. And I thought I'd totally grown out of it. Honestly thought I'd grown out of it. But ever since I've started to live in the country, spiders are big around here. And I appreciate any listeners we may have overseas will dispute that. But we're getting some big ass spiders. And I found one spider in my car as I was clearing out my car the other day. I sat in the driver's seat and this great big thing crawled over me, and it was big, and I'm not taking the mick, it was massive. And it made me, freeze. I couldn't move, and I had to just wait till it crawled over and then climb out of the car and do the thing that you do when you shake and you can't cope. And then I had to find something to get it out. So that's what made me freak out. It was a bit like, okay, I thought I was over this fear. I thought I could deal with it. And now we get even just a little spindly one, don't I? And I go mad. I can't even shower with the spindly one looking at me. So that's what made me think, you know what? We're going to talk about phobias and we're talking about fear.
And of course, we just watched a horror film.
Oh, we've just watched a horror film. And that's what weirds me out is I get off on the horror film. I love watching horror films. I like that buzz of being frightened and the jump and the suspense.
I don't.
You, on the other hand.
Not a fan.
Not.
I like horror films. I just don't like being scared. I think that I should have to pay like 50% less than everybody else, because I do spend around 80% of the time looking away from the screen and looking at anything else that makes me not look like a chicken.
Yeah.
So I'm like looking, my head is at the screen, but my eyes are looking everywhere else,
Everywhere
especially
else.
when it's jumpy.
Yeah. So it just made me think of like fear in general, and people with all these, you know, that feeling of when we're in the cinema and I'm absolutely having a great time and I'm, oh my God, this is so frightening, and oh, here it comes. Poor Dan. I look over to Dan and he's sweating and he's a bit like, oh, I don't want to look, but I don't want to look like I'm not looking. And you've even said, like, I said to you when we after we watched this, I said, can you imagine having that feeling all the time because of maybe like an animal or a cause or a situation? You have that, and that's like, and times that by probably 10 million, and that's probably what a phobia feels like.
Yeah, no, genuinely.
Yeah, so then that's where I went in and I've had a really good look now. So I found a proper definition of a phobia. So I've gone on like NHS website and things just so that we have a bit more of a clear understanding. So when we do talk about it, we aren't just talking about it. It's opinions, but it's also led by a good old bit of old-fashioned research as well. So a phobia, the NHS define this as an overwhelming and debilitating fear of an object, a place, a situation, a feeling, or even an animal. So for a lot of us, you would probably remember like arachnophobia, claustrophobia, and agoraphobia. So these are quite common. So it depends on what bracket that falls down. And they also say stuff like phobia is a pronounced fear, which is also known as an anxiety disorder as well. So some people can actually sit and like just thinking about a spider walking across the carpet, or just thinking, say like, I've got to go outside today, and I've got to walk to the shop. Like stuff we all take for granted, that person can think it so hard that even that makes them have a panic attack and can trigger it. And that is a good name for this one. It's called an anticipating anxiety as well. So I found that really interesting. The fact that these people can just, you know, even though that you have that phobia and that fear, you can even just think of it and it frightens you.
Yeah.
Not just actually being there and seeing a snake or having to go out and things like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things really where fears and phobias, they affect everybody, but obviously some people more than others and some people more frequently than others. I mean, personally, I don't really have many phobias. I don't like spiders. I wouldn't say I'm terrified of them. I can deal with them if I have to. I don't like knives, but I think that's pretty rational as a phobia.
Yeah, that's probably more rational.
Because they can pretty much damage you. And sharks. But again, unless I'm in the water, I'm not really thinking about sharks. Yeah. But again, sometimes when I'm in a swimming pool, I worry, what if there's a shark in here? And then you get that blind panic where you can't touch the floor and think, I'm going to be eaten by a shark in a swimming pool. That's never happened to anyone. No. But yeah,
no, it's mad, isn't it? And then like what you said about knives, that's actually really interesting, because that's more of an evolutionary fear. Like, of course you'd be worried about a knife, it's sharp and it could hurt. Yeah, and I think that's rational. To me, that's a rational fear. So like they also, I don't know if any of the listeners as well have seen, so like an American Horror Story, they had all of the flicks in the beginning. They always do that horrible, like there'll be like blood or something, and then there'll be another scene of like cracking and stuff, and it's all these different depictive scenes which are horrific. It's like scary, and they're rolling credits in the beginning. But one of the scenes that had a lot of backlash and now it's like a thing all over YouTube, is a woman had what looked like, to me, it looked like, you know, when bees are in a honeycomb and they have like that honeycomb holes all over her skin, and then things were coming out and it was blood. Yeah,
I've seen those.
You've seen that? And now I've even noticed on YouTube, these people are putting that, or are like making like a prosthetic all over their hands and skin, putting it to the camera and saying, does this frighten you? And it's got a proper word for it. It's called like, I can never pronounce it either. So that's what happens when you do research. You can't pronounce half these words. Is tyrophobia. I'm sorry if I say that wrong. And by all means, listeners, do do tell me if it's wrong. And yeah, so that means, but that actual phobia itself, it's like people go, oh my God, I don't like it and I can't look at it. And to be honest, I can't look at it. I don't particularly like it. I mean, I get freaked out. And Dan laughs at me when we go for a cheeky Nando's. They've got pots, haven't they, or like cutlery all over the wall.
Yeah.
In our local Nando's.
They look like wasp hives.
Yeah,
or
like
anthills or something.
anthills all over the wall. I can't look at that wall because I'm like, oh, it could all just fly out. But I think a lot of that is just, it's just like me. And I think people are saying that they've got a phobia of these things. But some of these phobias are actually what's called like an evolutionary response. So you're going to look at something with holes in and stuff coming out of it and pus and like blood. But that's our animal instinct, isn't it? Is to say, no, there's something wrong with that. And like for us to recognise disease and not to touch it. So that's why I've also read up about the phobia that I cannot pronounce, the whole phobia, we'll call it, that it's not recognised yet as a proper phobia, let's say, because of that, because it's almost distinguished as like, well, if you didn't think that was gross and if you didn't even at least make a face to that picture, then your animal instincts isn't particularly turned on. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it's an interesting subject, really.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure there's different types of phobia and like different reactions and whatever. Maybe, but I honestly didn't do any research on it. I just found some ones with funny names.
Yeah.
And the silliest ones, because that's what I do on this show. I do the stupid stuff and you do the sensible stuff, so that's how it works. But yeah, no, it's an interesting point. So yeah, do you know what the different types of phobias are? Because I believe you do.
Yeah, so I have found out that you can have what's called a simple or specific phobia, and these develop in childhood. So those phobias can be anything from animal phobias, that can be environmental phobias, so like a fear of heights. That brilliant, I think it's on YouTube as well, that brilliant film of like these snaps of people walking along that bridge, the fake bridge, and it cracks. Yeah, that's not a fear. That's it's being a human being and knowing you're going to fall. I don't want to
fall to my death.
Yeah. And I love the shark meme when it comes and smashes the screen, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's something for Dan because he don't like sharks.
No.
But you can also have environment.
No. I like sharks. Sharks are cool.
Yeah,
they still scare the hell. I like zombies, but I'm still terrified of them.
Yeah. And like further environmental ones as well as deep water.
Yeah.
And germs, so people who are frightened of germs, so you have like, and that's where you would probably get your compulsive obsessive disorders and like the Uber cleaning. And I knew one lady who used to wash her hands with bleach all the time and stuff like that, where she was so obsessed with things like that.
She have any fingerprints left? Or not?
No, so maybe she might be on like Britain's Most Wanted or something. You also get like bodily ones in the specific ones, so bodily phobias, so people that are frightened of blood, vomit, or like injury. So you get people that just like pass out if they even see like a spot of blood. And there's been a few Saturday nights where I'm puking down the loo and a friend of mine can't even help me, and she's shouting from the living room, I'm sorry, and because she can't help me, because if she looks at vomit, she'll vomit, and I don't particularly want it on my head. No. So that's that one. And there's some really good names for these, mind, to try and pronounce these. You are with this accent as well, ready? So hemophobia is your one that's blood. Oh my God, here we go. Acrophobia is heights. And dentophobia, guess what that one is?
Fear of denting things.
Close.
Dentists?
Yeah. Did you all hear that?
Why would you be scared of denting things? What a stupid thing to say.
Well, car.
Yeah.
So yeah, fear of the dentist. That's quite common, isn't it? Especially in the days of the silver truck that used to come down the school. Yeah. Can you remember? Did your family ever like talk about that when they were kids?
No.
No? Oh, that's probably why they didn't have no teeth. And then you've got I'm a little bit of a chicken. I don't like flying very much, but I still will do it.
Yeah. H has got some pretty weird phobia of flying that's only really come up recently, the last few years. The last time we flew anywhere was only to Scotland. And it was a 40-minute ride, and I've never seen... So I genuinely thought she was going to get off the plane, and it was about 20,000 feet in the air.
Yeah, I didn't
and
like
it was the best thing was that your brain works in such a way, which is the same way that mine works.
Yeah.
Because there was a doctor that you knew on this
Yeah.
plane that you happened to bump into, you then immediately calmed down and went, "It's fine, he's not dying, is he?" And she's
Yeah.